Each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at The Coles Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
I'm attorney Clinton Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Bryan, A.D, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place.
Welcome to another edition of the BCSN SportsWrap. Brian Fulford and A.D. Drew here to recap another great weekend of HBCU football. Week number 3 is in the books. Drew, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing fine, my brother. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Still feel like I'm catching myself up after being on the road and traveling, and it's just it's a big catch up. Didn't get a chance to go through all of the postseason notes and all those kind of things that I would love to be able to do, but I'm doing okay, doing all right.
Yeah. Did you get rain where you at in Savannah? Because I know throughout southern Georgia and into Alabama, there was a lot of rain. A lot of games were delayed yesterday.
Fortunately, we had beautiful weather on the marsh, as they call it in Savannah, and there was some rain heading there, and then there was rain on the way back, and so we managed to, I guess, avoid any kind of delays during the game. It was a pretty nice evening Saturday night for a great SIAC matchup, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And it was just a good weekend overall. So yeah, we saw the delays in Tuskegee, as you called it earlier, a historic delay.
Yes, it was a historic delay, and during the delay, we were milling around at the press box. Full disclosure, I used to graduate from Tuskegee, used to work at Tuskegee, many ties to the athletic department, and everybody was sitting around was like, this has never happened to us before here at Tuskegee. And first lightning delay that anybody could recall since the lightning rule came in 2006 for NCAA sports. So, and then even talking to some old school football players who work at the university now, they don't remember a game being delayed because of lightning or that type of rain at Alumni Bowl in Tuskegee. And for those of you all who have never been to a football game at Tuskegee, the shed that's so famous is metal. So obviously, it was built in 1924, my brother.
Yeah, not suitable conditions in a lightning storm. So, not at all. Not at all.
Obviously, they had to clear the stadium because of that. And the other thing is Tuskegee does not have lights.
Wow.
So we were sitting up there, we know if you don't get this game started by 2:30 or so, because we were literally 10 minutes into the game. There was 6 minutes off of the clock. It stopped at the 9:09 mark. No more than 15 minutes of real time into the game. And a little bit after 2 o'clock, we were all sitting up there like, y'all realize we don't get this game started within the next 30, 45 minutes. We will not finish this game, because I have been down there when the sun goes down, and it's real fast.
I thought Wrigley Field was the last historic stadium to put lights up, but thinking about it,
until you go to Central Alabama.
Cleve Abbott, that's the name of the stadium, right? Cleve Abbott Stadium.
Cleve Abbott Memorial Alumni Bowl.
Okay, sorry. I knew I got
Abbott.
the first. Oh, excuse me. I got the first part of it right, or somewhat right. Yeah, so that now should go in somebody's Wikipedia as the last historic stadium without lights for a night game. So we can't wait for that day to come. It'll be a big day in Tuskegee, I'm sure.
And former NFL player Ken Woodard, who obviously played his ball at Tuskegee, was like, man, back in the day they used to call the physical plant, have them bring all the trucks around the top of the hill and shine the lights down so that they could practice it.
That's wow. That's I have no comment, no words for that. But I guess that it is what it is, and still was and still is today. Yeah. So we got a big week to go through. We'll kind of jump around here in some of the significant stories from this past weekend. Before we get going, make sure if you're watching us, where you're watching us, if you're watching us on Facebook or if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to go ahead and like now, please. Thank you. And make sure to go ahead and share the feed with a friend. Let them know the SportsWrap is recapping week number 3 here. And, obviously we want to encourage you to make sure you're following us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at MyBCSN1. Go ahead and download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app right there in the top right corner. MyJBN, MyBCSN. Go find our app on the Google or Apple Play Store. You could have been watching the game. Obviously, I know there were some delays from Tuskegee, but, we were streaming everywhere. So it was good to be there with the Tuskegee Digital Network and be able to bring that game to you, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, even on our website, mybcsn.net. And so it's everywhere. So good opportunity there to stay up with us. So, excuse me. So, Drew, as we get into looking at week number 3, I'm looking for a common theme. And I guess when I say that, I'm looking
outside of rain, right?
What's that?
Outside of the theme of rain for the weekend?
Yeah, sure, right. Yeah, I mean, at least the games got finished. The games, we didn't have one of those, who is it last year? Miles and, was that Benedict Clark?
That was Clark.
Yeah, Miles and Clark.
And I think, if I recall right, it was homecoming. And we were talking about that one in the booth also. That game that finished at like 1 a.m. Central Time, 2 o'clock Eastern, 2 or 3 o'clock.
Yeah, it was Miles homecoming that started on one evening. Miles was losing, and then they went into the next day and had to win that morning. So after the delay, they managed to, and that was because that was a conference game that they had to actually get that game played. So that game had to happen. But as I was thinking about the theme for this week, what I can say for sure is that for the second consecutive week, the SWAC got a win against the Southland Conference, an FCS opponent. And we noted last week when Alcorn State defeated Northwestern State, that was the first time since, 2017, was it, Drew?
Yes. I believe it was like October 2017.
Right. Well, 2 weeks in a row and, against another Southland Conference opponent. This time it's Prairie View A&M getting the big win, 37-27 over Houston Baptist. Prairie View improves to 2-1. Individually, how about a first quarter that featured 41 points in the first quarter? Prairie View and Houston Baptist putting up points in the first quarter like it was going out of style. I mean, big play after big play. I mean, the time of possessions are ridiculous. There was only one score that went, or one possession that went over like 2:15, well, actually 2:17. That was a 5-minute possession by Houston Baptist at the end of the first quarter. But, all in all, a good opportunity there for a Prairie View, who at one point was trailing in the contest 27-23, managed to score and close out the game in the third quarter, actually close out the game in the fourth quarter with an interception for a touchdown. So that's a good win for Prairie View. Good win for the conference, first off, against Southland. Now, I don't know, Drew, if does it matter who these teams were in terms of their rankings and standings, because I don't think Northwestern had a win prior to playing Alcorn, and I know Houston Baptist still does not have a win. So I don't know. Does that matter to you in the big picture?
In the big picture, no, because SWAC just needed victories. The SWAC just needed to find somebody to beat who was considered a FCS opponent. Now, when it comes down to possible playoffs and getting a non-division champion into the playoffs, yeah, that will come back possibly to hurt the SWAC. But the fact that they were able to get a win against a conference that's quote unquote ranked higher than them, yes, it does matter.
Yeah, and the good thing is, and I will talk about this in a second, I think the SWAC has a legitimate top 25 team in their conference. And so when you add that into the mix, actually, I'll go so far as to say a top 20 team. I mean, they literally
probably two as of right now.
Possibly, definitely, they should have one. But taking that into consideration, then you're beating a non-conference. That will help, no doubt. Just want to give some mention to Jawan Pass, the transfer from Louisville, was 24-35, 365 yards passing, had 2 touchdowns passing, 1 interception. Also ran 9 times for 28 yards. So a good day for Pass. All in all, the Prairie View defense came up with a total of 8 sacks in the ball game and 2 interceptions. So it was a very good day for their defense. You all right over there?
Yeah, I hit a button and I don't know what I hit. There we go.
Got it.
I was watching highlights before we went on, and obviously I queued one of them back up and didn't realize I hit my keyboard.
Well, so that was one of the big games that I thought I wanted to start with, but I want to start with, it's also the first win for. Well, let me backtrack for a second, because I want to stay with the SWAC and that theme that we're talking about, because despite Jackson State losing by a score of 12-7, okay, Jackson State lost to UL Monroe 12-7. That was a winnable ball game. That was that was a game that by all
you're correct.
Minus the 4 turnovers, and I don't care what you say. The best defense right now in black college football is Jackson State's defense. They have only allowed 1 touchdown in 3 games, and that 1 touchdown came on a Hail Mary at the end of the contest against Tennessee State. So, needless to say, look, they held FAMU to 2 field goals. They should have held Tennessee State to 3, and then 4 field goals here against UL Monroe. And, that was a game.
Field goals.
No, 4. Final score was 12-7. Yeah, and ULM kicked field goals
right
after trailing 7-6. ULM had to kick a 45, 42, and a 49-yarder. So it wasn't easy. It was not easy for them to pull that off. But somebody in that conference, that young man from ULM, he definitely should be the special teams player of the week for doing what he did. But let's talk about where Jackson State is right now, because obviously they had the one interception by Shedeur late in that contest. In terms of fumbles, they lost 2 fumbles. One of them was key. So that's a total, by my count, of 3 turnovers. And your opponent, didn't really turn the ball over at all. And that's the difference in the ball game. 3 turnovers to nothing in a game like that. So where do you see Jackson State at this point in the season, Drew?
Like we just said, their defense is all of that. That touchdown pass that Shedeur Sanders threw in that game was a pro throw. Definitely was a pro throw. But I won't say he reverted, but we have to keep in mind he's a freshman. He did some freshman things. May have been trying to do too much to win the game for Jackson State instead of just manage the game and go and do what quarterbacks do. So, but the turnover that killed Jackson State more than anything else was the muff kickoff. It wasn't even a muff. It was on the return and trying to make the big play instead of going down, because he wasn't going to get no more than maybe 1 more yard. So you had to go 64 yards instead of 65 yards at that point. And that was the turnover that cost Jackson State the opportunity to win that game. So, yeah. But Jackson State has allowed FAMU, ULM to stay in the game because of the offensive turnovers. And which really tells you how good that defense is, because that defense has been put in some terrible, and I'm saying that's my inner Charles Barkley, terrible spots this season, and has only given up a couple of field goals. So, give credit to Dennis Thurman and what he's doing on that side of the ball, emphasizing the run, and you could sell out on the run if you're Jackson State when you got guys who could cover one-on-one in the secondary. And that's what they got in the model of Deion Sanders when he was playing, and Dennis Thurman, who was a safety in Dallas when he played. So,
yeah, that is they played an FBS opponent, and honestly, ULM did a good job defensively. I mean, they should get some credit for what they did holding Jackson State to, I'm counting punts here, at least 8 punts, through the course of that ball game, but no drive, with the exclusion. Let's say the touchdown drive was a 5-play drive, but for the most part, the longest drive that Jackson State did have came in that 4th quarter, and that was a 9-play drive. But most of the drives were usually 5-6 plays. So that was an outstanding defensive game. Let's just put it like that. I mean, and Jackson State
by both teams.
Yeah, definitely was. And I was watching that game. I was just trying to see. And let's just be honest. We've seen some bad field goal kicking at the college level. I mean, it's the college level, so it's going to be hit or miss. And it just so happened that this kid from ULM was hitting. I don't think I've seen anybody in college hit 3 consecutive field goals from 42 plus. I thought at least one of them was going to
last one. The last one I think went wide left. Yes, he was 4 for 5. The last one I believe went wide left. He had the distance. It was just left, because that was the one that would. That's why I thought he hit 5 until I went back to the and looked at.
Well, yeah, technically he was 4 of 6. He was actually 4 of 6 because he missed one at the. Yeah, he missed one at the end of the first half from 51, and then of course you mentioned the one that he missed from 48. But look, the guys out there, they ran him out there and he had a 45, 42, and 49 yarder. So, but anyway, Jackson State still, I don't, you'd be crazy to drop them. Anybody who's out there voting, it'd be crazy to drop them too far, because I think now when people are the pollsters, and I'm talking to pollsters out there, you got to measure these wins and losses. Yeah, well, just in general. I mean, there's several polls out there.
That's a group that we vote with, so we can talk to them directly.
All right, we can talk directly. So the pollsters, be mindful of these wins and losses and who they are against. Don't get too excited when somebody whoops up on a D2 school by 30 versus having a tough loss against an FBS, or I'll say this, even a close loss to an FCS. Now, I think FCS to FCS, that might be a little bit different, where you're measuring apples and apples. So let's just put it like that. Drew, let's take a short break, talk about a few more games throughout the week 3 wrap up, and then we'll kind of keep this and get into our segment where we'll talk about who we're bullish and bearish about a little bit later in the show. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and A.D. We'll be back right after these words.
I'm frozen on this end.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. Are we still on the air? Yeah, I think we're still on, Brian.
We are still on. All right. Well, we thought we were going to a break.
Let me see. Okay. Yes, we are still on. So let's keep it going to.
All right. Well, hey, we thought. All right, we thought we were going to a break, but I guess we're going to stay here and